Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Shift Happens, the AI podcast, where Joy Morales and we unpack complex systems and talk to you about the real-world applications of AI and all the systems and tools and what this means for your business. Hey, Joy,
How are ya?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Beautiful day
Good.
today, so that always makes
Yes.
me happy.
Yes, I agree. It's very nice. How's things in your world?
Really good. Trying out new programs always, so just having fun.
Good, good. Same here. Just every day is a new opportunity to explore and build and connect. And I have recently put up some extra whiteboards, much to my wife's chagrin. Uh, but for me, it's the visualization of it is important. It's even as techie as I am. Uh, there's something, seeing it on the phone is super powerful, but to have it visualized is
Yeah,
pretty neat
I'm.
as well. But
I agree. I'm totally that way.
right on. So what are we talking about today?
Well, I think we, on our before discussion, which I've referenced a couple of times, we were talking about mental mind maps and how that applies to small business. So I think you're going to start off from the discussion you had this morning, and I'll chime in when I can.
Okay, so I promise this rolls into AI, folks. But let's start with the idea of a mental model. I'm a huge proponent of mental models, and way back when I was a brand new leader in the Air Force, I don't know where I learned this, but a boss or a mentor of mine came up and he told me about this thing that he did where whenever before he reacted to bad news, he would ask himself this: does this matter in 2 minutes? Does this matter in 2 hours? Does that matter in 2 days? The time interval is irrelevant. I personally used 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days to start with, but that is a mental model. It's a checklist, a framework that you step through. And for me in the military, that actually helped me greatly develop actually a reputation of being quite unflappable. When people would approach me with bad news or bad things happened, I would just run through that mental checklist, and it helped a lot. It helped me a lot as an early mental model. Uh, so from there, I got into the study of mental models, and a deeper mental model, is something as simple as a routine, a mantra. If you're religious, the Ten Commandments. If you aren't religious, the OODA loop, or actually that doesn't track. You could be religious and still use the OODA loop, but it's a series of questions you ask yourself. And I love this quote: uh, the limitation of my language is the limitation of my world, right? Uh, Mental model is another language. It's a checklist. Coding, the ability to code, is another
Right.
language. The codes are just language. So as you expand, and here's where I'm going with all this, as you expand your language, whether that's in the form of code, mantras, reading, data, information, this is expanding the limitation of your world. And so, where am I going with all this? ChatGPT is a fantastic tool for dissecting and learning about and building on mental models. You can even build your own mental model, right? You can take, and in fact, I would submit we all have our own mental models. If you and I studied the OODA loop together, we would implement it in slightly different ways, or possibly radically different ways. Uh, it's the implementation of it that matters, right? So I use ChatGPT. Its core function for me is the implementation of, or its core function for me is the study of these mental models and the expansion of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm tracking.
Cool. Okay, so just recently, just last night, I was talking to ChatGPT. She and I are BFFs, and we I came upon this idea called the social. What did I say earlier? Wait, oh, shoot, it keeps slipping out of my brain. Structural hole theory. Okay, so one thing I think about a lot is, like for example, I know a lot of coding friends who are worried about ChatGPT because ChatGPT can code, right?
Right.
But I tell them not to worry, because for every machine learning programmer who can write black box PhD algorithms, there are 1,000 of me who can't do that but can code, right? For every 1,000 of me, there's 10,000 people who've never logged into ChatGPT. And what I've been calling those folks in that layer is the middle layer. There is a middle layer of folks who will always need some help on implementing this. This whole podcast is centered around the idea of bringing us as users, as experienced users of ChatGPT for business applications, to the folks, the 10,000 folks who don't know about ChatGPT, right? So I found out what that's actually called is a structural hole. The identifying that gap is identifying a structural hole in the system. And so I learned about a new theory and gave I learned that there's a name for this idea already that I've been working on. And to that end, that I think is my most significant use case of ChatGPT to develop and implement these systems. Because from that, there is a who the gentleman named Ronald who coined that term. He came up with questions that you can ask as your business for that. For example, uh, the real estate industry here, it's really hard for tenants to find a home. The industry is extremely fractured. Homes are on Zillow, homes are on Redfin, homes are on PPR.com, rental homes are on Realtor.com. There's signs in yards. There's people posting on Facebook and Craigslist. All of these places and more for rental homes, right? There is no cohesive platform for somebody to find a rental. That is a structural hole. So if you go to the website cospropertymanagers.com, I built just a simple roster of 45 property managers in town, filterable by their credit score. It's a starting point. It's a starting point
Right.
for a tenant to start to try to find a home. And as I sit here and think about it, I should link to those other platforms too. I should put links, and I will put links to those other ones, portals for rentals. I just say that to say that this is an example of a structural hole and the implementation of a system. But this checklist, this idea, steps you through, an evaluation of your industry to find those gaps, and then has you explore what your skill sets are to address those gaps, or to outsource the development of those gaps.
Well, I think it's so interesting because I had a meeting this morning and we talked about AI just for a few minutes. And I said, you know, I think the downside of ChatGPT or AI is the use case of content creation. That's like the entry level. But what it's really great for small businesses, large, medium-sized businesses, whatever, is creating a business strategy and a sales strategy. I mean, it's like content creation everybody knows about, and there's a lot of tricks to make it better, to get the content that you're really looking for. Yes, that's a skill set, but to be able to use it as a tool to upload data for your business and then use it as a partner, or and I don't want to say a guide, but a partner to grow your business is really a sweet spot to help your business grow. And so many people just use it at the entry level point and not go further to really help them in their business. And they can do it so easily if they would just ask questions.
But they don't know to ask those
But they
questions.
don't know.
They don't have the language to ask those questions. I've experienced this a number of times in my life with I remember taking a calculus class that I was completely lost in, right? And the instructor would get frustrated at me and the rest of the class too. But he was that PhD level guy, and he'd be like, "If you're having trouble, just ask questions." And I responded to him one time, and I said, "Sir, I don't know how to ask the question.
Right.
I lack the language and understanding to even begin to frame the question." And when I was trying to learn to program on my own from online when I was active duty, same thing. I kept running into that problem of I don't know how to ask, right? And I knew this about myself too. I can learn really well online certain things, right? And if I have an understanding, a core understanding, I can then take and run with it, right? But it took me going and to a in residence class after I retired from the Air Force, where I could have somebody in front of me and saying, "This is an object in programming, right? this is also an object in programming. So is this, right? And maneuvering the
Right.
data, right, with his hands before it, that one aha moment where I was like, oh, okay, I just paid for this boot camp for that one moment there, right? And but because I didn't have the conceptual language. So to that point, yeah, right. If people don't know how to ask the question, they can't ask the question.
Well, and what's exciting about it is, um, you know, I've struggled to go on with the math analogy. I mean, I've struggled with math most of my life. When I was in college, I had to hire a tutor to get my graduate degree. I had to really have help get me through the math courses because I needed the support to. I didn't know what to ask, and when you don't know what to ask, you just stop. Well, the great thing about AI is you literally once you get started, there's a flow to it, there's a sequence to it, there's a language to it of just asking questions. And I think just the difficulty is getting started. You don't have to know math because I ask it about math all the time. You don't have to know coding. You don't. All you have to do is um, start the conversation. And I was just saying in the meeting that I had this morning, I go, what I used to ask 15, 16 months ago and what I asked today is I never would have guessed that, Rob. I never would have guessed I could ask such a good question
Yeah, I mean,
and get a good response. But that's what it is.
well, that to that point too. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they talked about AI. AI, you, the podcast person on the podcast said this: you have to have the cognitive baseline, is what they said, to interpret the results, right? And so, uh, I'm not worried about ChatGPT replacing us anytime soon because it's an amplifier, right? But you have to know how to ask the question and learn and or learn. Spend
Right.
months, some time, uh, getting in there, learning the system, developing the ability to ask the questions, and knowing how, and then right, I look at how I talk to it now versus how I talked to it a year ago too, and something evolution of a system, right? But what's real neat is you get these threads going, and now ChatGPT are having some real deep level conversations about systems theory and how to implement these things and what does it mean when the structural hole theory and how does the structural hole theory uh, merge with our existing framework that we're building and even to that point my language uh, I was talking to ChatGPT this morning and I said to it the framework that we're building ChatGPT is my partner in building that area. In fact, I was on the way to drop my kids off from school and my daughter Sloan, she said, Dad, make sure you give ChatGPT credit for helping you with this too. And I said, "Oh, I do, buddy." And she said, "Okay, just make sure, because that would be cheating if you don't." I was like, "Don't worry, she
That's
gets credit."
sweet. Well,
Yeah,
this is what's funny. Like we talk about the heavy lift of these really in-depth subjects, but I use it for the most basic of things. I was saying in my BNI last week, I go, yeah, I use it for business all the time, every day. I said, and I also use it for my personal use. I have a graduation that I'm going to like actually next weekend. And so I don't have time. I don't have time to shop. I don't have time to be creative. I just don't have time. So I went into ChatGPT, put in she's graduating, what her degree is in. Give me 10 gifts. She's a family member. Give me 10 heartfelt gifts. Gave me a list of 10. Then I picked out one. And then I said, I want to have something engraved on it. Can you write me a poem about new doors opening? Wrote me a poem. That one was pretty good. Then I asked for two more, picked the best one out of the three, copied it, pasted it, sent it to our engraver, and like I'm done. Done. So it took me 5 minutes, and that's being generous because it really probably took me two. And I copy pasted it, sent it, good to go. So even for something like that, I don't have to stress over it. I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. And it's still like a nice gift.
yeah. Well, and if you have a model, like I have the Rob or I Rob model, Rob AI, where it is you. It is a blueprint of you. So you're talking to yourself if in that scenario. So I think it's an authentic process too. It's an authentic process that came from you, if
Yeah.
because ChatGPT knows you and you've trained it as you. So that poem exists in your mind too. It's just this amplify tool that we have allows us to speak to a version of ourselves that doesn't get tired, that doesn't need
Yeah.
caffeine, that is not thirsty, is not hungry yet.
Well,
Uh,
and I
yeah,
had someone ask me, I think it was just last week, they go, "What do you use it for?" And I said, "Everything." I said, "I've integrated it into everything." And that might sound crazy, but I use it for recipes. I use it for gifts. I use it for training exercises. That's on the personal side, and then everything in business, from accounting to marketing to sales analysis to research and development, and just on and on and on over time. And when I was saying that, I was thinking, God, I sound crazy, but how much time has that saved me as I've learned to integrate it into every area of my life?
yeah,
And
I agree. And I've had people say, "Look at me askance when I talk about the depth of it." But here's the other thing from a business aspect too. If you're not using it, you're getting you aren't keeping up, right? Especially as these tools integrate further into our workflows.
totally.
I'm waiting for my humane AI pin to come in the mail, and this pin is supposed to be able to. It's actually getting pretty bad reviews right now, which is disheartening. But I'm hoping that they roll out an update before I get mine. But it's going to be it's going to be able to listen in on real time conversations and remind me, oh hey, you told Joy that you will have that curriculum to her by tomorrow, and it'll contextually know and understand and have instructions that if you hear me commit to something, you will remind me, right? And so, how much more efficient is that going to make me? Oh,
Right.
hey, by the way, Rob, vibrate, and it's got a little projector. It's gonna be like, get Joy, the but where I'm going with that is if you're not using these tools, uh, as they integrate further into our lives, because that is happening. They're not coming back. We're not going backwards. Your business will get you will not be able to iterate fast enough to compete with someone who is using the system at scale. It's just not going to be able to.
Well, and I don't think what people realize is how much it's integrating into our life. Did you read about the new AI stethoscope that doctors have?
I did not.
Okay, you got to look that up after this. It
Okay.
is crazy. So it's an AI stethoscope, and it on the stethoscope part, so like right here, it will do like an EKG. It will do all these tests on your heart where the doctor will immediately have it. So what does that mean? So when you're getting a physical, you can know right then and there if you have, I don't want to say like it will diagnose all the heart problems. I don't mean it like that. What I do mean it as is what a great way to know if there's a concern or not to further test it. And the stethoscope's like $400 and the software to monitor it is like 20. So it's going to integrate into our health dramatically. And this is just one of the ways because less how many tests won't you need and what test you will need by having the answer right here, right now. I mean, that was amazing to see that. I watched the demo on it and I was like, oh my gosh, it tests like, and I don't even remember, 50 things right off the bat. It'll
Oh
give
yeah.
you your heart rate right there. I mean, it's just crazy. And this is the first generation. So you think, generations to come, it's just going to get better. And that means we're going to live longer. We're going to be healthier because things are going to be identified so quickly.
You,
So when you say it integrates into our life, it's really going to integrate into our life in every way.
there's a Robert Scoble. He's on Twitter, and or X. He said something a couple years ago that resonated so deeply with me. Every once in a while, I get on Twitter and remind him that I'm still thinking about what he said. But he said we cannot even begin to imagine the impact of this technology because we have never been here before, right? We could not imagine even Steve Jobs could not imagine the iPhone and its impact before it rolled out. He might had some idea, right? But even it took his design team 6 months to convince him to do it. His initial response to the iPhone was actually, "Why would I put a phone on my MP3 player?" That was his initial thought, right? And then they convinced him, and then he changed the world with it, right? Apple changed. So the same thing. You're right. This integration, we can't even begin to imagine the scale of the impact. As you're talking about, I remember reading about this application too. Did you know that you apparently you can measure the glucose level of somebody's glucose in their eye fluid, right? So imagine having a pair of smart glasses that I could see and would measure your or my has a camera flip back on my eyeballs or something, and if I was diabetic, would alert you to or the doctor. Maybe my
Yeah.
maybe a flashing red light in my glasses indicates to the outside world, hey, this guy's about to go into diabetic shock or something, right? All of these little things and the ripple effects. I can envision running with this with a version of that stethoscope or the glasses merged, where it's like, hey, Rob, you're in your optimal, or watches do that now. You're in the optimal zone. Let me help you stay there by playing your favorite music. uh, you know,
Yeah.
it's going to be able to do all of that. Let me mute text messages for you, to because I noticed they knock you out of your zone, something of that. All these things that are just going to make you a more efficient, healthier human. Yep.
Well, and I just, I mean, and we say this regularly, it's only limited by our imagination and creativity, but that is a real world application on how it's going to affect our health in such a positive way. I mean, so much of what we hear is, negative and it's just awful, but not enough is said about, like, how great would it be to reduce heart attacks and strokes and, get off medication because you don't know if that medication is going to help or not because you don't have the information. Well, we're getting the information quickly, and I just think it's so exciting for medicine and education and business that a year from now we're going to talk about how it used to be.
We are. I can think of I count my calories, right? Because I know a lot of people find this monotonous. In fact, this would help with that too. But I what if not what if this will be here sooner than we know it. Uh, Last night I was going to the fridge and I was like, wow, I could really use I like the muscle milks, right, as a replacement for chocolate milk, right? But I had to sit there and mentally think, okay, Ken, what's my caloric budget today? And should I get water instead? The answer to that is always yes. But what if my glasses tracked that for me, and just had a little calorie count as I reached for food? It was like, hey, uh, your caloric budget is 600 calories remaining for the day. If I grab that 140 calorie muscle milk, I am not meeting my target goal. Uh, warning, Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson. Uh, just those kind of applications, right? I you know, sky's the limit. Only limited by our imagination and the ability, only limited by our language and our ability to pull these mental models in. Yeah, just so
Way to
so
wrap it
cool.
up full circle. Good
Thank you.
one.
You like that? Whoosh, ninja move. Yeah.
I think
Uh,
next week let's do some stuff about all the new tools coming out. Like, I'll bring the info about the stethoscope, but I also heard that or read somewhere that the appliances that are coming out are all AI, have components of AI, which that should be interesting. So I'll do some research on that this week too, because that's where it's going.
yeah, agreed. It's going here. Have you had a chance to try the Apple Vision Pro yet?
Uh-uh.
Oh, I'm actively every day trying to talk myself out of putting them on my credit card, which is a dangerous thing to do, and don't do it, Rob. Uh, but the first generation product, of course, so it's getting some feedback, the weight distribution and things. But I am here to tell you, I got to do a demo the other day with them. Uh, Real time camera feed, right? So you see the outside world. The eye tracking is incredible. Just looking, they have a machine that scans your glasses and tells you what the prescription is. So real time, they put the inserts in for my prescription for my glasses,
Oh
put
my
them
God.
on my head, and I was just looking around, right, and just the act of looking, and then I was raising my hand to click right and to do stuff, and the guy was like, "Oh, you don't have to raise your hand as long as your hands are in your field of view." So my hands are sitting on the counter, and all I had to do was that right there on the counter, and it recognized it as the click motion or the swipe motion from my hands sitting still, so you don't have to elevate your hands so they don't get tired. uh, but I had 6 browser windows open, right, and
Oh my
then
gosh.
oh, also so I already have the virtual reality headsets for the uh see the Meta Quest, the Quest, right? And so it's pretty neat where the 360 videos, Apple's taken that to another level with the 4K immersive videos. Like I was watching a bear walk up in this video, and I swear to you, I smelled the bear. Like like it was like wow, right? And the audio experience and the cinema experience and it's, yeah, then when they miniaturize those even a little bit further, so you don't look like an alien walking around, but
Right.
game changer, and all of the things that we are talking about, all integrated into your glasses and your phone. Yeah, you you're going to be able to look at somebody, and it's going to detect the pulse in their neck, right? If they don't have a beard, and and I'm sure that there's some other measure that they'll get, and you'll be able to say, "Hey, are you okay? Your heart rate's elevated." uh, yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Such cool stuff coming.
And it's funny because when I was, my grandma lived to be 99. Yeah, 99. And I just remember asking her, when I was back in college, like, what was the greatest thing of your lifetime? And she said, one of the great things was the man walking on the moon, and she named a couple other things. But I really think the greatest thing of our lifetime is this, and all the changes we're going to see in the next decade are just going to be. That's what we're going to say to our kids. What's the greatest thing while you were alive? It's this.
This is just the touch for this is this the now this is what we have now, right? Again, just give it a year, give it 2 years, 3 years, as the scale of this. Sam Altman was quoted the other day as saying, uh, ChatGPT 5 is going to put a number, some, don't quote me exactly on the percentage, but it was like 80% of startups out of business. And he was talking to the capability, and somebody has parsed that a little further and said what he meant was the startups that are built on the back of ChatGPT 4. So
Wow.
apparently, ChatGPT 5 is so capable that all of the things that have built as add-ons are about to be nuked uh, uh, by ChatGPT 5. So and also this is just the guardrail version. Can you imagine the capability that OpenAI actually has?
Yeah.
I remember in the beginning we were talking about this to full circle it there too. Uh, if you ask ChatGPT questions, right? I know it's guardrailed, right? So what, I bet you the actual capability that has all of the information about electronic theory and physics. I wouldn't be surprised if you can tell the unguardrailed version of ChatGPT or OpenAI, build me a particle accelerator, and it's like, okay, here you go. Here's the plans, how you can turn your toaster into a particle accelerator.
So, as you can see, Rob and I can talk about AI indefinitely all the
We can.
time. And that's why we do this podcast, so we can geek out for 20 or 30 minutes. So, last mention of our workshop, AI in Reach. We are almost sold out. I think we have 2 spaces left. So, if you have any interest in learning about AI, we are having 4 presenters, and Rob's going to talk about customer service. Tim, we had on last week, he's talking about creating graphics. Trent, we had on a few weeks ago, he is doing a sales playbook, how to create a sales playbook, training, onboarding. I'm going to talk about custom instructions, and then I'm going to wrap it up with how to create your business strategy with ChatGPT. So it is April 30th, $29. If you are interested, please don't wait to register because we only have a couple slots left. It is hands-on. I will send you an email. You can register at youraiwizards.com/register. And we hope to see you because we're really excited.
Let's do it. Yeah, it's super fun. And you will walk away from this seminar with actionable steps for your business. That's the difference, I think, in what we're doing. We are committed to having you be able to implement this. In fact, you're going to be able to implement it in the class
Yeah.
because you bring your laptop and we'll show you real time how to do this for your business.
Yeah. And that's why we called it a workshop because you're going to work. We're going to make it fun, but you're going to work because
You got to do the work.
this is the game changer for business.
There is no shortcut to doing the work.
That's right. All right.
Cool.
Next week, we're talking about cool new items that we want to share with people.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
See you next time.
Bye bye.